Good day again, Specialist Practice. I'm going to do a take 2 on what I'm expecting in your literature review. So we'll get right into it. Like I said in the first take, it's going to be short, sharp and sweet. This time we're recording in my home office. So the first thing you need to do is to go to Moodle and go on to Specialist Practice and click into Assessments. Within the assessments pane, as normal, you will find that there's a template for the literature review. And you can open that and you'll see exactly what is needed. Remember to delete this box here. Now, this is different to most of your other templates who've made this a little bit more academic, because often a literature review is done within an academic context. The purpose, I want to know at this bit exactly why you did this literature review. What purpose did it serve you? How is it going to inform your practice, and how is it going to inform your theoretical understandings as a youth development worker? This is particularly because next year you are required to have your own model of practice. So you're required to start to think, what am I going to be professionally? Who am I professionally? What are you focusing on? I want to know the question. Now, the question I'm looking for here is the question that you had within your annotated bibliography. This is the same question that you are looking at within your literature review. How are you focusing on what you're focusing on? Tell me a little bit, just very briefly, about how you actually found your literature, how you went to EBSCO, how you may have used literature you've used in other courses within the BYD. Nice, sharp, short and sweet introduction, 150 words. Within the literature review, this is the bulk of your findings. I am going to be looking at the order and the themes, the thematic order that you've given. I'm looking to see order, I'm looking to see really good summaries, and I'm looking to see a deep analysis. I'm not looking for you to cut and paste again the questions and the answers that you got in your annotated bibliography. I'm looking to see that you can engage in those higher levels of thinking. So to get an idea of this, go back into a specialist practice, and if you come down into the assessment, now you remember you can print this off at the top here, so you can get the complete assessment and print it off with the evidence guide. But I'm looking to see whether you're showing me that you understand. So I'm looking to see really clear, good summaries. I'm looking to see how you are able to apply that understanding into your own practice. I'm looking to see a deep level of analysis. I'm looking to see synthesis, that you've actually been able to bring things together. I'm looking to see a level of evaluation, that you can actually say whether the literature you have found is useful or not. And finally, within your conclusion, I'm looking to see some recommendations. So what I would really encourage you to do, though, to get that thematic organisation of your readings, is to come into week 7, overview and lesson, remembering you should be doing that all the time, each couple of weeks, and actually going through both of these lectures here, okay? These are shorter than me talking at you, and he does it. The person giving these lectures gives you a really good idea about how you can order, how you can get thematic ordering of your literature. Whether you choose to go chronologically, back in the 1970s, writers such as wrote like this, or whether you want to go, these 3 readings covered these themes, these 3 readings covered these themes. So have a deep, good look at those. Also, I have up on Moodle for you, in the file that you can see this video in, examples of annotated bibliographies from a magazine called On Substance, which I get quite regularly. So this here is an annotated bibliography on energy drink and alcohol. Now, you'll see that these are not, On Substance is an industry magazine for industry workers. So whilst it's a magazine, it's not a journal. So whilst they've got the industry referencing style up here, the annotations would probably, if they were handed in for specialist practice, just pass. The reasoning for that is that the paragraphs should be grounded in the authors, not the source. So this American review, I would have preferred being written. Resnick, Strain and Griffins, brackets 2009, argue that the potential, because it's at the end of the day, it is the authors doing the arguing, not a book or a piece of paper. The annotations are also a bit long, but they give you an idea of a magazine which writes for the industry, doing industry-related annotated bibliographies and industry-related literature reviews. So here is the literature review. Again, this literature review is, and I talked about this in our block course, this literature review was in response to a researcher asking whether the youth worker who spoke at a conference was actually speaking from evidence-based practice or speaking from instinct. And she found that the youth worker was speaking from instinct, but that actually the youth worker did have a point. It's just that whether the youth worker's point was evidence-based was very questionable. Now, what I like about this is that there is a clear thematic organisation of the literature. So she starts on prevalence, an introduction, then prevalence, then what researchers generally found. So she's looking at specific research there. The messages that the research has given for consumers becomes her conclusion. What I did not appreciate within this is, again, the referencing being tag-ons at the end of the paragraphs. So this should have said something like Penley and Lubin, 2012, found that energy drinks first appeared in Europe and Asia in the 1960s. You'll also find that within this article there has been organisation of things within the paragraphs. So we've got marketing, we've got prevalence and use, we've got motivations, why, the reasons why people are mixing. So you can see we've got a little bit of, this is the marketing that's gone, this is the use, this is why people are using energy drinks. It seems very, 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 very clear. Then when she goes on to research, she's actually looking at now directly what is the effect of mixing energy drinks and alcohol. And when we get to the conclusion, you'll find that they're saying, well, actually the research shows that there is really no danger in mixing energy drinks and alcohol. However, we do know that caffeine has effects and alcohol has effects. So if you combine the two together, you put yourself at risk of two sets of effects, not one. So that's it. You know, if I was to grade this literature review due to the referencing in that, I'd probably give it an A, not an A+, because the referencing could be a bit tighter by grounding paragraphs in those sources. But yeah, it would probably get an A for a really good thematic literature review that actually shows at the end a really good conclusion that's giving also some recommendations, like don't actually mix them, and the whole review, if you read it, the author is really going, this is something that we as practitioners in the A&D field need to be aware of, and what's the evidence out there. And so this provides evidence for practice. That's what I'm looking for. If you can produce a literature review that's really thematic and great, that would be really, really cool. The other thing you'll notice within this literature review is that it no longer has personal language. So it's not saying stuff like I think or I feel or I believe or I found this interesting. You're looking for nice, tight academic language. It doesn't mean you can't use the word I. What it does mean is that you can't state your own opinion as your own opinion. So what I'm looking for would be, for example, if I was to write about my White 2002 argues that young people from gang families tend to join gangs because they see it as the best option, which is what he found. I believe he is right. I don't want to see this at all, okay? Instead, think about making it more wishy-washy, which would be the term I would say. This is called, what I've written here, I believe he is right. It puts me directly into the centre of my sentence. It is saying I am an actor in the sentence, so it becomes what's called an active sentence. I want you to turn it from an active sentence into a passive sentence, so take yourself out, but leave the idea in. So I would argue something like White may be right. Here in Wainuiomata, we have many young people joining gangs. It is possible, see, I'm taking the I believe and putting it is possible that their motivations are for the same reason. However, in other New Zealand communities where ethnicity, because remember White was focusing on ethnicity, is not a prevailing factor like Westport, White's findings may be inconclusive. White is focusing on Australian Aboriginal, I can never spell these words, youth and their motivations. He is not looking at the experiences of all gang members. He is starting, his questions are around ethnicity and gang membership, not gang membership motivations. Okay, now before this, I would have a paragraph summarising why. Now, you can, for this paragraph, use your summary part of your annotation in your annotated bibliography. So, I would go here, back to specialist practice. Now I'm going to find that I've got the year wrong, but never fear, we can change the year. Now, I would say though, if you're going to use your annotation summary, check your feedback. So it's 2009. Okay, now key thing in your annotated bibliography is that you're no longer going to, even when it comes to in this journal article, you're no longer going to be using words like this. You're going to be going straight to the author. White explores the intersection between life in gang and life in the family as young Indigenous Australians. White argues that fundamentally experiences of Indigenous Australians have been shaped by colonisation in many young people. This is particularly the case of the police and media representations. Young people growing up in gang families felt that they were labelled as gang members They didn't have to belong to a gang to be seen as a gang member. Those found that racism gave them a reason to be together. White argues that young people from gang families tend to join gangs because they see it as the best option. White may be right. Here in Wainoia-Mata, we have many young people joining gangs. So that there gives a really good summary of the literature review here from my annotation. But I've taken that point of relevance out and gone straight into deeper level thinking. By doing this, I am ticking off the majority of those boxes and slightly alluding to recommendations. So one of my recommendations from this would be to actually ask young people in gangs here in Wainoia-Mata what are their motivations for joining gangs, and rather than starting with ethnicity. And I shouldn't be putting that in the introduction. Instead, I should be putting it in the literature review section. Do not put your references in your literature review section. See, you don't see it here. It's paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. Do not put your references in. Put your references at the end. If you can do that within your literature review, you've done a great literature review, and you should be expecting a really good, and make sure you spell check it. You should be expecting a really good grade at the end of the course.